Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Booyah is right. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're here for 90 minutes. Then at 12:30, we flip over to WKYC, Channel 3. Earl in the house.
Yes.
Always good to have you on the panel. It has been way too long.
Been a while. I've been out here. We're here with you all summer.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, what's good is you've got a lot of takes stored up, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was out here earlier this week.
You were?
Yeah, but I remember about a month ago, I asked Steve to take me off. But let's toss the mic. Come right back.
Mike's got to read.
Yeah, our show today is brought to us by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Before we dive into stuff today, we do have to address a bit of sad news here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Director Steve's mother, who we've referenced quite a few times, she celebrated her 102nd birthday a couple months ago, but unfortunately Steve got the call he had been dreading this morning, that his mom had passed away peacefully at the age of 102. Steve and his two brothers, one lives in Columbus, one lives in California, got to spend the afternoon with her yesterday, so one final moment to cherish and celebrate an incredible life for Dorothy Currant, and we just want to send our condolences, our thoughts, our well wishes, our prayers. We love you, Steve. Ant's directing today, and UCSS isn't the same without you, so I know your mom lived an incredible life. We appreciate her for raising you into the person we got to meet here at UCSS. 102 is nothing to scoff at. That is an incredible life. So from everyone here at the UCSS family, Steve, we're thinking of you. We love you. Prayers and thoughts go out to the Currant family in this time of despair.
Our deepest condolences. I had a conversation with Steve on Monday, and he was so passionate about talking about his mother. And he told me a story about how she has been slipping away the last couple of weeks, and the visits were a little less interactive. But he told a story about how she used to love to sing, and so she would just sing songs to bring herself comfort. And he said she couldn't sing, but he started to sing one of my all-time favorite songs with my kids, "You Are My Sunshine." Yeah. She started singing along with him once he started singing. It's a beautiful moment. Steve, thank you for sharing it with me. I hope you don't mind that I share it with our viewers. And one other thing that's really cool, and I love doing this, when someone that you're close to loses someone, it's always good to pass on your condolences, but it's also good to say, what did they enjoy? What's something that brought them joy and happiness? Maybe it will bring me a little joy and happiness today. And Steve, unsolicited, shared to our morning text this morning that she loved nature. And he said, if you would, take an extra second when you're outdoors today to look at the beauty of the sky and the trees and nature, and we're surrounded by it, and listen to a bird and think of Dorothy. And I promise you, Steve, I've already done that once. I will do that multiple times throughout the day, and we're all thinking about you. It's a way that all of our viewers can help honor Dorothy.
Yeah, I text Steve off thread this morning, and my therapist tell me being trauma bonded with somebody is a real thing. And me and Steve both lost our mom.
Your mom not long ago.
And I texted him this morning, and he talked about me and him being in that unique space of the conversations we're gonna have will be different.
Sure.
Another thing about Steve that our audience doesn't know: every Thursday, he would go spend time with his mom.
Yes, he would.
And yesterday was Thursday, and he got to spend time with his mom for the last time. A lot would be said about 102 years, and that's a long time to live on this earth, and you get to experience a lot of different things. But the pain is still going to be the same, no matter how old she is.
You're right about that.
Because the relationship that you have with a mother, it starts in the womb, 9 months before you
it's the closest
get
relationship really that most people ever have.
That cord that you have that attaches her to you. You feel what she feel. You go through what she go through. You eat what she eat. And for him, Steve is older than me. He had his mother much longer. So I look at it as no matter how old she was, he had her longer. So that amount of time, those memories, that pain is probably going to be much greater. right? Because you know, you don't experience it until you experience it. And I just told him I was praying for him, that I'm here if he ever want to vent and just need somebody to listen and things like that. Steve, we love you, we miss you, man, and you take all the time you need, like, to make sure that you are well and putting yourself first right now.
Absolutely.
Because it's not one of those situations to where you're okay in a year, 2 years from now. It's just a weight that you learn to carry.
Nobody loves you like your mama. No matter
Period.
what, no matter what,
Well said.
no matter what relationships you have, you can get married, whatever. Nobody loves you like your
The
mama.
one person that will never turn.
Yeah.
Always have your back.
Yeah.
And Steve, we're thinking about you, and we can't wait to get you back. Steve is an exemplary human being.
Yes.
He is.
I don't think I've ever heard Steve utter a negative word about anyone.
Yeah.
He just lives his life in a very positive space, and that's a testament to your mom, Dorothy, for sure.
He found out. Well, I've talked before about my wife runs or helps with the homeless shelter here in Cleveland. She's she does a bunch of roles there. So he brought in, unsolicited, just brought in a big bag of like toothbrushes that you collect from the dentist over time and toothpaste, whatever. He said, "Here, just give this to her."
Man, yeah, he's always thinking about
Always
that.
little
one
stuff
last
like that.
thing. I shared a video with Jason yesterday, ironically. It was about grief. And one of the signs of grief is it's a sign that you care deeply.
Right.
And the irony is we're here the next day and we're talking about our friend, our brother, that's dealing with a level of grief that's really unmeasurable for real.
Yeah, it is. And we hope all is well in your world today, Steve. We're thinking about you. All right, difficult turn to the show. Browns minicamp in the books, and there is so much to talk about. I guess we can parse it out over the next 5 weeks, right?
And we got Spencer German coming on in a little bit. He was in Berea all 3 days of camp, so we'll get some personal observations from what he saw. We had Jason on yesterday. We talked plenty of quarterbacks yesterday. We're going to talk some of Nick Chubb's departure. He officially sent out his heartfelt thank you, and that is where we are going to begin.
Mike called this morning and said, "Hey, should we talk Chubb or you want to talk?" I'm like, I'm so sick of talking quarterbacks.
Yeah,
I'll talk anything besides quarterbacks.
We actually
15
talked
minutes.
Offensive line and defensive line yesterday on Channel 3 because, like, what do you say about these quarterbacks? It hasn't been said a million times. And by the way, it all falls on the floor and means nothing but dust because the quarterback of this football team has not been decided. It will not be decided until sometime in August.
Yeah.
And that's when we can really dive in and have meaty discussions on the quarterbacks that sound different every day.
I found another angle myself. I'll show it to you after the show. I wrote an article yesterday on Jamari Thrash.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're going to talk about him today, too. Yeah.
But let's start with Nick Chubb, guys, after a quick word from FanDuel. The NBA Finals in full swing every night, delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you're new to FanDuel, right now is the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. If you have a winning ticket, please send it into the show, tweet it at us, email at us, so we can feature it here on the show. We want to show all the FanDuel tickets that hit big and win big in the next coming weeks. So please send us in those tickets if you have a winning ticket. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we got the news on Monday that Nick Chubb was officially signing with the Houston Texans. He passed his physical. We have now seen him in practice with the Texans. We see him wearing number 21. And yesterday we got a little glimpse into the goodbye that Nick Chubb sent to Browns fans, and the Cleveland community. Before I read you an Instagram post that Nick Chubb sent, I want to play you a little video that we saw posted. Nick Chubb doesn't do a ton of interviews. You don't very often see Nick Chubb in front of a camera speaking, but this video is about 1 minute and 20 seconds of Nick Chubb leaving Berea for what could have been the final time in February. It kind of gives you a little insight into Nick Chubb's mindset entering the offseason, and then I'll read his goodbye on Instagram. But this is Nick Chubb and Jock Films.
Could be my last time leaving here. Got here when I was 22. Grew up here. I mean, the biggest thing for me is the relationships I made here in Cleveland. You know, over 7 years. I'm super close to everyone. Finally opened up to them. Now I got to start all over. You know, meeting new people is always hard for me. I'm just not. I want to go out my way and talk to you. That's how I start to know you. So I guess that's just new city, new people, new everything. Everyone embraced me. The city, the fans, the team, and you know, I learned so much here. I pretty much became a man here from 22 to 29. Just grateful and just about looking forward to the next level, the next jump.
That was a little video giving some insight into Nick Chubb leaving Berea. Yesterday, he posted this on Instagram. 7 years. That's more than just time. It's where I grew roots, found a home, and felt the love like nowhere else. Cleveland, you didn't just embrace me, you became family. To every fan who cheered, shouted, and believed, you gave me purpose. To this city, with its grit, heart, and unforgettable spirit, you showed me what true community feels like. To my teammates, only we know how hard we fought every day and night. Relentless effort, scratching and clawing, doing all we could to win games, not only for us, but for the city. You guys kept me going every day, and I will never forget my time with you in the building and on the field. I came here to play football, but I'm leaving with so much more. Memories that'll last a lifetime, friendships that changed me, and pride in calling this place home. This city deserves a winning season every year. It's earned it. This city doesn't quit. The people never stop believing, and my brothers in that locker room will never stop fighting. Cleveland's time is now, and not because they are owed anything, but because resilience always wins, just like we preached every day in meetings. This isn't goodbye to what we built. It's a thank you for the trust, the passion, and the moments that made me feel like I belonged here from day one. Cleveland, you'll always have a piece of my heart. Until we meet again, heart emoji and bat emoji. A well-written thank you to the Cleveland fan base, the Cleveland community, from Nick Chubb. And I'm curious, Jay and Jason, you guys were on the show Monday. Earl, you were on the show Tuesday. Do you feel any differently now that it's been 96 hours removed to knowing the fact that Nick Chubb is no longer a member of the Cleveland Browns?
No, I was crushed then, and I'm crushed now. I don't know if there's a meter for how much I can be crushed. Wednesday, we ran a soundbite from Nick Chubb on the 6 o'clock sports on Channel 3. And when we came out of it, I jokingly looked to our news anchor, Russ Mitchell, and I said, Russ, you're going to have to finish the sports. I can't speak. It's dusty in here. I can't go on. And I truly felt that way. First of all, seeing Nick Chubb in gear other than the Browns was devastating to me.
That's nasty. Look at that. That's ugly.
What's crazy, Jay, is your reaction is exactly what my reaction was when his video was up 2 seconds, and you said what I've been thinking. I can't believe he did that.
Yeah.
This is a man so private, so quiet, so humble. He does only the media that he has to do. He's cordial, he's polite, but he never peels back the curtain. He almost never lets us inside the bat cave. And I got to tell you, he knew when he left in February, and this was before the draft.
Yeah.
He knew this was likely his last time being in the Browns facility. And it meant so much to him that he invited, which I believe Jock Films is his own media arm.
Jock Films has put out Nick Chubb content before.
Yes. So that's who he chooses to let behind his curtain. And the fact that he did that tells me a lot about him. A, he knows how much he means to us. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to give the fans something to show that he knows that. And that's what it was. That video was a salute to Cleveland fans, letting them know in one of my most vulnerable and painful moments, I'm going to let you all in because I know you love me like I love you. This is a love affair.
It is.
And it has a terrible ending. And I know it's sports. I know if you talk to smart football people, they'll say this was the play. I'll forever disagree with that because sometimes human interaction and relationships trump what you think is the best thing to do. He deserved one more chance. I said it before, I'll say it again. I hope he tears up the NFL this year. I hope he has 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns and has a career rebirth that he deserves as much as anyone.
You know, when I seen the video and when I seen his post on social media, he spoke specifically to the city of Cleveland, specifically to the people of Cleveland. Not once did he mention the Browns. It was all about the city. It was all about the fans. Nick Chubb is a guy who was the epitome of what this city is. Grit, toughness, overcoming, overachieving, beating the odds. That was Nick Chubb. A lot of players have came and went throughout this city, and we would always say, you know, this player is the mantra of what Cleveland is, when in reality, it's guys like Nick Chubb, it's guys like Joe Thomas that don't do too much talking. They let their work talk for them, right? They don't do too much complaining, too much whining. When their back is against the wall, they show you who they are and what they got to offer you. And Nick Chubb, to me, is the most beloved Cleveland Brown since 1999. And that's saying that, knowing that Joe Thomas is a staple in this city and Joe Thomas is a Hall of Famer. But at the end of the day, what he contributed on the football field and off the football field and how he made people feel, like, to me, is second to none.
Yeah, I've joked before that I'm sort of dead inside. So I kind of processed all this at the draft. So I wasn't really shocked by anything this week. Yeah, it's the finality of it all. But we kind of saw this coming. So we kind of knew after the draft that this was probably going to be it for him. And I think he knew that. That's why he brought the crew, because I think he knew when he left in February that was it. And they were probably going to draft a running back. Probably everybody was shocked that they took two, but that was more definitive that it was it for him. Where does he rank on the all-time Cleveland beloved list? I mean, he's in the conversation at the top for sure. I don't know how you measure such things, but, you know, Earl, you say Joe Thomas and Nick Chubb and put Nick above Joe. I'm not going to argue with that. You know, when you talk current Cleveland athletes, I put Jose Ramirez in that conversation, but I think Nick probably overshadows that. If you talk all the time, you got to put LeBron in that conversation, even though he's so polarizing. And there's people that don't like him inexplicably. But for Nick, just showed up and kept his mouth shut. And I think he wanted to control the messaging. You've seen him go to Players Tribune in the past. He went to Players Tribune last year and wrote a great letter. And now he does this with the video. Yet, Jay, I'm with you. You know, I said I was shocked that he did it, but I think he wanted it documented. For the last time of pulling out of the facility and saying his goodbyes. Now, there's just something special about Cleveland fans and athletes. And this happens all over the country where athletes grow attached to certain markets, sure, and there's a deep bond there. But and maybe it's because I live here. I've covered plenty of teams and I've been all over the country, but it just feels like it happens more in Cleveland than it does in a number of other places where athletes just realize the passion that the fans have for the sports and for the teams and for them, and the connection that they draw. We've seen it in all the different sports, and so it's just. I mean, I salute him. I'm with you. I hope he has a great year. I hope he can play another couple of years in the league. The odds are against him, but if there's anybody you're going to bet on, it would probably be Nick Chubb to defy the odds.
Yeah, which is why I said I thought he deserved a chance. We're talking about a superhuman guy here.
Yeah.
We've seen that the weight room videos are legendary. We know he's done the work. It's impossible to tell from clips of video what a person, how much they're back. But I will say, I watched the video that came down from Texans minicamp on Tuesday, and I watched it. The one thing that for me is the hardest thing to get back is the ability to not slow down when you're making cuts, because when you've had the ACL and you plant that foot in the dirt, there's a mental trigger to it. Oh no, it could go again. And when I watched him, the one thing that stood out to me was he had that extra little burst. And I know it's just practice and there's no pads, but that cut right there. I would have given him a chance. I'll tell you this. We've said that Andrew Berry's safe, that we think he's safe.
Yeah.
One surefire way, and I think Judkins is going to be a great back, and I think he's going to make us forget about part of the Nick Chubb legacy. I really do. I believe that. I love that pick right now. I think it's great. But it better be great.
Yeah.
And here's why. There is a scenario where Andrew Berry's tenure here ends this year. Mm-hmm. And that's if these two Brown running backs look like Ford and Nick Chubb goes and looks like Nick Chubb again. That's career ending. You can't overcome that. I'm sorry. You can't.
So for me, I'm right there with you with the thought process that not even deserved. He earned another chance, right? We all know what the contract situation was, and he did a lot to make sure that he appeased the Cleveland Browns. So he earned another chance. And I think what's frustrating for Browns fans, especially when it comes to Andrew Berry and just the whole situation in general, we've talked ad nauseum about this is going to be a long, tough season for the Cleveland Browns, that wins are going to be hard to come by. Well, if that's the case, then why not keep a guy like Nick Chubb in the fold?
Give us something to cheer for.
That gives us something to cheer for, gives us something to be excited about. And not trying to be mean, but in all honesty, like even if Nick Chubb is not the same player, his just football IQ and his experience could have been good for the rookie running backs. I would have much rather preferred a room with the rookies and Nick Chubb versus the rookies and Jerome Ford.
Right.
And I'm not trying to throw shade at Jerome Ford, but I'll take Pierre Strong over Jerome Ford if I'm being honest with myself. Yeah. So to me, why not keep a veteran running back that the fans love, that still might have something in the tank and can be a teacher to the young studs that you got ahead of him? It just didn't make sense. I can see if the Cleveland Browns was right there on the cusp of being a team that was right there being a contending team, and you had to make sure that you made football moves, quote unquote, that was taking us forward. But, and again, relationships, when guys are looked at like family, sometimes that should triumph the business side of things, especially in this city when you're talking about this team in particular. Like, don't try to be all buttoned up now when it comes to Nick Chubb when you ain't been buttoned
you're
up
going to
this
make
whole time.
a competitive team decision now.
Yeah, like it don't make sense.
And the other part about that is, I've dubbed 25 an exploratory year. Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. Let's see what we have. Okay, let's see if Nick Chubb has anything left. If we're just, and look, we're in a division where it's going to take 10, 11, maybe 12 wins to win it. I think it'll probably take 12. Mm-hmm. That's how good Cincinnati and Baltimore, to me, feel. If that's the case, and I don't like the term mailing it in, but you're clearly, especially if you're not starting Joe Flacco. Now, if Joe Flacco is the starter, they must think, hey, you know what? We've got enough good pieces in other places that maybe we can get a wild card. So let's make a run at it. But if they start one of the rookies and it truly is this exploratory season, then why was Nick Chubb jettisoned? And I can't remember the numbers. Jerome Ford renegotiated his contract. Do we remember what he signed for? Was it that much less than what Nick Chubb is making? Nick Chubb's got the minimum.
He got 2.5
with another 2.5 in incentives, which the Browns easily could have done. Easily.
Jerome Ford is making 1.75 this year.
Okay, so for $750,000, they said we'll take Jerome Ford over Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
That could be the first paragraph of your general manager obituary. I don't understand that.
I don't think running backs get you fired.
I think this one will.
No. I think Nick Chubb will.
think. Listen, I agree with that. But once upon a time, not that long ago, 5 years ago, remember running backs? You don't draft them. Yeah. They're a dime a dozen. The league has changed the way they look at running backs because the defenses became so stout against the pass that now the league has pivoted to running the football. And see the Philadelphia Eagles and Saquon Barkley. So if that pivot is back, and by the way, another thing that really drives me nuts about this, Houston last year takes Joe Mixon essentially off the Bengals scrap heap and turns Joe Mixon into a Pro Bowl running back again. If Houston is able to catch lightning in that same bottle with Nick Chubb and they make a Super Bowl, they have no one to thank but Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland got him there. No question about it.
This will be
no question about it.
Super Bowl.
I wrote that after. I mean, think about the embarrassment. We're getting a little bit off topic here, but I wrote after Houston beat Cleveland in the playoff game. They gave you their franchise quarterback, went all the way to the bottom and came back up and beat you in a playoff game.
Yeah.
That's humiliating. And you're the one that provided all the pieces to them. Not all of them. CJ Stroud had nothing.
No, it didn't, but many of the other picks.
Many of the
some
other
of their
picks.
big defensive picks.
And I laid out all of it
Yeah.
of how the Browns built the Texans, and people lost their mind. I'm like, I don't know how you can get upset by that. These are just the
you're
facts.
just issuing facts.
These are the facts. The Browns built the Texans.
See, Jay,
Now
that's
you
what
gave
drives
them-
me nuts. There's a large portion of our fan base that will blame the messenger
Yeah, I know.
instead of the group that screwed it all up.
Yeah, I know.
Like if you're frustrated that the Texans are going to be on a Super Bowl window for the next 5 years, don't blame Jason for writing about it. Blame the Browns for greasing the skids for it.
It's just amazing that the Texans traded you their franchise quarterback and still won a playoff game before you by beating you. Like, think about that.
And
think about
look where now 3 years later we are in NFL purgatory
Yeah.
with this franchise quarterback who may never see the field again. And they, again, are on the front side of a Super Bowl window that likely will last for at least the next 3 to 5 years.
Probably.
I go back to, when Sashi Brown had to make that tough decision on Joe Hayden. And going into that decision, I remember Joe Hayden, his level of play, I kind of tilted off a little bit. He was dealing with the groin injuries. But people knew that Joe Hayden was all about Cleveland.
Yeah.
He repped Cleveland from the time he was here to the time he left here. He even made the choice to retire as a Cleveland Brown. And I remember when the Browns finally made the choice to release Joe Hayden, it was a lot of mixed emotions behind it, because here's a guy that was an all-pro caliber player that constantly chose the city of Cleveland. And here we are, not a franchise that's worth winning a damn thing, and we're willing to walk away from a guy that sacrificed so much for us. Joe Hayden goes over to Pittsburgh, and I believe he made a Pro Bowl.
Still played well.
And I believe made a Pro Bowl while playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I definitely can see Nick Chubb, a year removed from the serious knee injury. The ankle injury that he suffered last year clearly was not that severe, and he looks good. He was out there practicing without no braces on his knees. He was cutting fine, and so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was to excel in that offensive system, especially splitting carries with Joe Mixon and have a phenomenal season. I just go back to it don't make sense, because everything about what the Cleveland Browns is putting in front of us is screaming rebuild, regardless if they want to come out and say it or not.
Yeah.
And when you know how sensitive we are about this team and this city, and know that the level of frustration is already high right now, going into the season before we even got there, I just feel like the least that Andrew Berry could have did was give this fan base their favorite player to cheer for, to help you kind of just get through what the season is going to be.
Yeah, no question about it.
It's all the Browns, like it or not, the Browns took the emotion out of the decision. Everyone here is talking about this from an emotional
point, right?
And I acknowledge that too, Jay.
Yeah, and when you're running an NFL team,
You can't be emotional.
You have to take the emotion out of it. And the Browns looked at this as the carries that we would give to Nick, even if he's got something left in the tank. How much is it? Is it one more year?
Yeah.
The carries that we would give Nick.
Does it stunt the growth of the other youngsters?
Yes, we need to give those
And that's
carries
fair.
to Judkins and Sampson and Jerome Ford, and we have to. This is not we as in me, we as in the Browns. We have to move this franchise forward, and it sucks. Like, these are hard decisions, and they know they're not popular decisions. It's like when Bill Belichick moved on from Bernie.
Oh.
And
Bill
you
was-
think this is bad.
Bill was mostly right, though.
He was right.
He was right.
But fans don't want to hear that, because it's an emotional connection that you have with these players and with these teams. So I totally get it. But the Browns have removed the emotion from this decision. Now, are they right or not? We'll find out. I hope Nick has a great year. Even if he does, is he going to have another great year after that?
That's fair.
And I think that's where
Here's the funny part to me about what you're saying, because I agree. They did remove the emotion out of it. And I think we can all agree a part of how the Browns ended up where we are now is a lot of emotional-based decisions. And so in order to be better than what you are, you probably need to change how you go about things. But don't let Nick Chubb be your starting point. Of all of a
We're
sudden,
turning over a new leaf. No heart in this chest.
This is where you want to start at.
Yeah,
with
that's
Nick
a- no,
Chubb?
that's
It's
a funny
man,
point.
That's kind of crazy to
That's
me.
a funny
but-
point. Yeah, for sure. I will say this: the football gods just take one dump after another on Cleveland Browns fans. I mean, you could write not a book, you could write a full volume of books on all of the things that the football gods have done to the Browns that make you say, "Oh my God, enough is enough."
Is it us?
We surrender.
Did we do something wrong?
Yeah, what the hell? Is it on an Indian burial ground, like they say?
Yeah.
I mean, think about what happened when the Indians left that site.
Yeah.
The Indians, from that point forward, have been the antithesis of what they were the previous 30
That's
years.
it. Build the dome.
So build the dome in
think
Brook
about
Park
this.
and see if you can get out from under those evil spirit Indian burial ground. And I will say this, this was my point. The football gods smiled on us last season. They gave us one last Nick Chubb masterpiece where my image of Nick Chubb for the Browns will be scoring the touchdown in the snow against the Pittsburgh Steelers to help us win the game. Thank you, football gods, for that moment. It meant a lot in a season that otherwise felt like one constant kick to the groin after another. We had that.
My favorite all-time Nick Chubb run, and I posted a video on my Twitter page today. I made a little reel, but it was the 92-yard touchdown run against
Was that the Chubba Hubba?
No,
Jim
that was just it wasn't a Jim Donovan call, but
okay.
I just remember that run against the Atlanta Falcons and just how loud that stadium got when he made that run. Like Nick Chubb was that dude, man, and you know he will be missed in the city of Cleveland, man. But life goes on, things go on. But I was about to tell you, you talk about like just the football guys dumping on the city and our fan base. I can still remember being a young man watching you on ESPN at night. I watched the Browns win a game that they ended up losing. I will never forget opening day, we playing Kansas City. They missed the field goal. Dwayne Rudd takes the helmet off. And again, I'm not used to this team winning. So as a young man that's a diehard sports fan, this is a cool start to the week. I finally get a chance to see the Browns win the first game of the season just for that not to happen.
Yeah.
Or I can think
insane.
of the year that Reggie Bush was drafted. We played New Orleans opening week. And we get the ball first. And I can't remember the quarterback. He throws a bomb to like Quincy Morgan, first player of the game, touchdown. It get called back for a penalty.
Of course.
We go to get our ass whooped.
Yeah.
It was just like, man, I could think of so many different moments as a Browns fan.
I
to
said
where,
you could write not a book, but you could write volumes, one after another, after another. You know, the one play recently that really comes to mind, because we name them. We name our tragedies, the drive, the fumble, all of that. The one play that might be the most recent version of that was Kansas City's 4th and forever, and they pick it up with a backup quarterback in the game with the Chiefs in the wild card playoff game. I mean, if not for that play, the Browns win that game and they're going to the AFC Championship game.
Jay, the worst thing ever to me, the first playoff game I can remember seeing, like when we came back in '99, Dennis Northcutt catch that pass.
That's another one.
The game
That's
is
another
secured,
one.
man.
I'm telling you, the football gods love dumping on
I got a
Cleveland
whooping
fans.
that night. I threw something across the room and it broke something in the house. My mother said, I know damn well you ain't throwing nothing in my house watching the sport that you ain't even getting paid to play. Bring your ass here right now.
That's what moms are for.
Yeah, it was a bad day for me.
All right, we're going to move on to our next topic, Talk a Little Cavs, brought to us by a Buckeye State Credit Union. If you haven't heard of them yet, meet your favorite financial partner. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local institution offering everything from checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans with some of the lowest rates in Northeast Ohio. Their Cleveland branch is in Shaker Heights, which is one of 5 locations across the state, making it easy to find one near you. Can't get to a branch? No problem. They make banking simple with digital banking. What sets them apart? Well, Buckeye State Credit Union makes banking personal and convenient. At Buckeye, their focus is you. The core values: connect, simplify, and adapt guide everything they do, bringing people together, cutting through the clutter, and they're innovative. To learn more, visit buckeyecu.org. Buckeye State Credit Union, your money simplified.
Did you see this tweet that Steve just sent us?
Yeah,
it's worth a read.
The Texans.
Roberto Shenanigans tweets out a list of current Houston Texans, courtesy of Andrew Berry. Nick Chubb, Will Anderson, Tank Dell, Damian Pierce, Kenyon Green, Cade Stover, MJ Stewart, Kamari Lassiter, Jamal Hill. Wow.
That's tough.
Meantime, PFF has us ranked 32nd, and the Texans are ranked top 10, I would say.
I don't
remember, but, I mean, I would have them in my top 10.
All right, let's talk a little Cavs, guys. It is the worst kept secret in the NBA that Kevin Durant is going to get traded, most likely before the NBA draft. Sometime in the next 2 weeks is what most people assume will happen. There are a few teams that are the favorites to land Durant: the Rockets, the Spurs, the Heat, the Timberwolves, the Knicks. They're all 5 that we know for sure are in the mix. And I saw a couple reports yesterday saying at least the Cavs have checked in on Kevin Durant. Brett Siegel of Clutch Points was the one that first mentioned it. Jake Fisher then confirmed that he had heard the Cavs have at least reached out. Now, because both teams are second-apron teams, finding a deal between the Suns and the Cavs for Durant, just to at least talk about, is incredibly difficult because Durant makes more money than any individual player on the Cavs, and because both teams are second-apron teams, the salaries have to match to the penny. Neither team can take back a single penny more, and you can't aggregate salaries, so you have to look at 3-team deals. So I came up with 2 possible 3-team deals that would work from both a financial standpoint and make some sense for all 3 teams involved. And then I'm going to send this out to you guys. Let me know if either of these deals would get you excited and if Kevin Durant would solve some of the Cavs' biggest issues. But the first 3-team deal I whipped up involved the Cavs, the Suns, and the Nets. In this deal, the Cavs would get Kevin Durant. The Suns would get Jared Allen, DeAndre Hunter, and Isaac Okoro. And to help facilitate the cap part of this, the Cavs would dump Strus, Craig Porter Jr., and some future second-round picks to the Nets. The Nets are one of 3 teams that do have cap space to absorb some extra salaries. They're looking to rebuild, so maybe those picks would be valuable to them. But essentially, you're giving up 5 players and picks for Kevin Durant in this scenario. In the second trade scenario, it involves the Kings as the 3rd team. We mentioned earlier in the week the Kings had interest in Darius Garland. So this one would give you Durant and Jonas Valanciunas, so a forward and a big. The Suns would get Jared Allen, Keegan Murray, and Malik Monk. And the Kings in this scenario would get Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, and Dean Wade. So you're turning Durant and Valanciunas, or you're turning, Garland, Okoro, Wade, and Jared Allen into Durant and Valanciunas. Both of these deals work under the second apron of the cap for all 3 teams. I double-checked with my cap guy. So, guys, Earl,
Yes.
I see you jumping at the bit.
Yes.
Would you do these deals, and does Durant solve
I'd do
the
that
Cavs'
deal.
biggest issues?
Me and Jay on the same page
I would
today.
do that deal.
I'm doing that deal with the Kings in a heartbeat. Well, for a couple reasons. One, young teams in the NBA don't win championships. Veteran teams do. Valanciunas, wasn't he on the Toronto Raptors team that won the championship?
I think he was.
All right, so he has championship experience. Kevin Durant is a walking bucket. Even at almost 37 years old, he's a former MVP. He's a scoring champion. I understand he didn't have an Achilles injury in the past. That don't matter. That's the past. Me and him the same age, and I'm pretty sure he's in better shape than I am. When we got to the playoffs, a lot of that has been said about the Cleveland Cavaliers on the defensive side of the ball, but at the end of the day, we couldn't score points when we needed to score points. Mike got the exact numbers, but I do know our efficiency rating on offense dropped tremendously from the regular season to the playoffs. It dropped horrifically from the first round to the second round. So with that being the case and knowing that you struggle to score, any deal that brings me Kevin Durant and I can hold on to Evan Mobley and I get to keep DeAndre Hunter and that second deal, I'm with it. Because as much as we keep screaming core 4, to me the Cavs core is Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell, and that's what you should be building around. So yeah, if I can add Kevin Durant to this roster, hell yeah, run it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Sacramento deal looks great for Cleveland. The issue is 2 issues. One, I don't know if Kevin Durant wants to be here or not. He already vetoed a deal, said he didn't want to go back to Golden State. So maybe he looks at
Aren't
this
we closer to winning, though?
Yeah, and maybe he looks at this as I'm toward the end of my career. They've got a legitimate chance.
We know how much he loves to
can win
chase
a championship.
rings.
Yeah, can win a championship. The other issue is I don't think Matt Ishbia has any interest in helping Dan Gilbert win a championship.
Yeah, that's my.
However, real quick, on that, they did just hire 2 Cavs assistants. Jordan Ott is now the head coach in Phoenix. He took DeMar Carroll with them from Cleveland's bench.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what that might have been?
That don't mean a damn thing.
I'm not
I'm just saying
pissing on
there's
those-
now a
those guys'
pathway
co-
that the two
But that
staffs
might have
can
been
talk.
another FU to Dan.
I'm going to weaken your
Yeah.
staff.
That's
And,
exactly-
and you can't really stop that because it's a promotion.
Right.
So
Can't stop it.
I don't see any world. And plus, I think Phoenix can do better from a talent standpoint in a return for Kevin. If you're the Cavs, yeah, you probably look at that
I agree with
pretty
that sentiment, by
strongly.
the way.
But I think Phoenix can do better when you add on top of that the personal feud between Ishbia and Dan. I don't see any world where Matt Ishbia says, let's help Dan Gilbert win a championship. That's not happening.
So poaching two of the Cavs coaches was like Tupac dropping "Hit 'Em Up" during a Biggie and Pac beef,
Yes.
right? Because that's how much these men hate each other. So,
I mean,
Well,
it's-
I've heard the H word used when talking about those
it
two.
is
So,
very personal.
They hate each other.
Like
They've publicly said they hate each other.
yeah, I
fam-
mean,
like-
why are you going to help? Especially if you're Phoenix, this isn't going to help you win a title.
no, not at all.
like the wives and families have been involved. That's how.
Yeah.
This is not playful. This is real. I don't see any way that. I mean, it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, so Jason, let's have fun. We understand you don't think it'll ever happen, but in a hypothetical world where Ishbia and Dan Gilbert agreed to this kind of deal,
Damn.
does Durant
Cartels,
solve the Cavs'
wives and
playoff
families
issue?
are involved. The NBA cartels. Yeah.
Jason, does Durant solve what you view as the Cavs' biggest playoff issues?
Yeah, in some ways, yeah, because I've said it before. Yeah, he's 36, but I don't think you can look at age necessarily with the Cavs window. You have to look at 2 years. You've got 2 years to win a championship, and if that means parting with a younger player to obtain an older player, I think you still have to strongly look at that, because I don't know that you can worry about roster building 4 or 5 years out from now anymore in the NBA. It's about for where this team is positioned and where their window is at. It's right now. And you've got 2 more postseasons to do this before you have to really
looks really
start
old
dismantling it. I mean, he ain't young.
That picture, he looked really old in that one.
He ain't young, but
He ain't old either.
Is he the same player he was 10 years ago? No, probably not, but he's pretty doggone good.
Look at those stats on the left.
I
That
know
was
the
this
stats
season.
are mind.
Yeah.
They're
He
jaw
is
dropping.
still a walking bucket and a lethal assassin from
Yeah.
all three
Yeah,
levels offensively.
look,
And you would have to assume that after all these years in the NBA, the IQ, the basketball IQ, is much, much higher than it was when he was in his prime athletically.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
like when guys kind of lose it from the athletic standpoint, and you're as good as Kevin Durant, and you're still learning the game from an IQ standpoint, I think it makes you more lethal the older that you get.
Does he solve their issues? Yeah.
I think he solves a lot of them.
For
The one
sure.
thing that I don't know about is I still think this team needs to get markedly tougher. They need an attitude. They need a dog.
I
And
think he helps in that department as well.
I think he helps in that department, but just by saying he's tougher than all the Cavs, that's not.
Well, you would
an
get
endorsement.
Valanciunas too, though.
Yeah, no, now he'll help. He'll
So-
help. But I just think, gosh, after watching even in the finals, man, these teams get after it. They get after it, and unfortunately, I just didn't see that in the Cavs. And any trade that they make this offseason, I think, has to make them tougher, and it has to bring a level of fear that the opponent looks at them and says, "Oh, we got to watch out for this guy," because we don't have that guy right now.
If you talk about, we've talked about the NBA is trying to abolish the big three, but Donovan, Evan, and Kevin Durant on the same team,
Oh my God.
that's pretty. And it's not like you don't have anything. It's not like
You still got other pieces.
when Miami assembled the big three,
Right.
and they had nothing else
So
around
there's a
them.
lot of
There's still some
accoutrement. I mean,
there's
they
still
could
some
really.
firepower.
Gosh,
It would be hard if they made that deal. It is worth mentioning. They'd be hard capped at the second apron, which means they couldn't spend more. So a lot of the rest of the roster would have to be vet minimum guys. But
Sure.
the truth is,
So
that's what they're searching for right now anyway, because
Right.
they're in the second apron. So they would lose some guys. They have to fill those spots with veteran minimum guys. But it's not like they were out big fish hunting, and now they have to go shop in the bargain.
put a percentage chance, Mike, on that deal happening.
Because
I have it at 1%.
0.002.
Oh, okay. I have it at 1%.
I mean, 1% fine. Like, yeah, but no, very, very unlikely. To Jason's point, if Phoenix wants to get picks for Durant, because they're in a second apron hell.
I know.
They're getting close to the repeat offender 3-year, which is the absolute no you cannot do in the second apron. And that's why this year getting rid of Durant brings them back.
We
under
know
the
he's
luxury
gone.
tax.
That's 100%.
Yeah. So it depends on what they want. If they want to still try and compete right now, because they do have Devin Booker in his prime.
Yeah.
And they have said we want to build around Booker.
Sure, that's
if
the smart
Booker's
play.
okay with going a year or two will stink, then we'll get back up, they definitely can go with different paths. But if they're trying to build a roster around Booker for the present, adding guys like Jared Allen, they don't have a center whatsoever, would be a great upgrade to playoff with Devin Booker. DeAndre Hunter would fit very well next to a Devin Booker. They have Bradley Beal on that whole issue. He's not waiving his no-trade clause. But the Cavs could give them some ready-made pieces to put alongside of Devin Booker to avoid a complete rebuild, which is why I think these deals do kind of make sense in a vacuum. But then you add the Ishbia Gilbert factor into it. And I'm like, it's
Probably
just kind of a fun hypothetical.
Wouldn't you love to hear that phone call?
But it is a damn fun hypothetical.
None of the GMs do the talking, but
you got me bleep.
I'd love to put the two of them in that's a reality show.
Man.
My goodness.
Man.
The NBA cartels.
Dan has softened a bit in recent years.
Yeah, when he spoke at the Cleveland Sports Award, my takeaway from that, I think you were there that night or you saw it, my biggest takeaway was he's lost. I don't want to say he's lost his edge. Your board's perfect.
He's
softened a little bit on
Life
everything.
happens, right? Life happens. He went through his own health scare. He lost his son, and you just get older, right? And sometimes your perspective on things change, but we've definitely seen Dan Gilbert turn into a different guy as an owner, and it's probably for the better, to be totally honest with you. You know, when you become more softer, more gentle in your older age, it's a sign you see life differently. That's all.
For sure.
The one way he was always described, and there's a lot of people that worked in that building that did not like him, like a lot.
Yeah.
But he had enormous
onions.
Yes.
Yep.
To push the franchise forward at certain times. He was the
and you need that.
He absolutely. He was the jet fuel that propelled them, and he drove me crazy with a lot of the things that he did at times. But he was the jet fuel that propelled that organization forward. And at times that had been lacking while he had been away and recovering from the stroke.
Right. I'm never going to kill a guy for an overactive desire to win. That to me, like I know Steinbrenner was one of those guys.
We do it with Jimmy.
Jones is one of those guys.
We do it with Jimmy.
Jimmy has it. Listen, I think
like Jimmy means well.
Jimmy wants to win.
Yeah, he means well,
and he has the money. He doesn't know how.
Yeah, he means well.
And he hasn't figured out that his input isn't a good thing. He hasn't figured that out yet. Now, Dan, I think, did. And I hope Jimmy Haslam wakes up one day and says, I'm not going to the office today. Or I'm not going to call Andrew Barry and see what I can screw up today. I'm going to just write checks and make sure we have the right guys to run this thing. And then get out of the way. Owners don't win championships. They pay for them. But it's got to come from other people in the organization.
This is we could do a whole topic on this, and I don't want to get too far off the path, but it's fascinating. I almost wrote something this week on the Knicks firing Thibodeau, and I didn't because we had other people handling it. But when you look like...
Do we know why yet?
Because James Dolan's a psychopath.
Dolan.
Yeah, I know, but like I know he is. But what is his reasoning?
James Dolan's a psychopath.
That is
Psychopaths don't need reasons. You're gone.
That is basically
the team climbs to a mountain that they haven't hit in 25 years. What are the Pacers? Are the Pacers?
Jay, stop thinking
fire?
logically. This is
But
illogical.
it's not even that. It's the fact that they fired him, and now they're knocking on the doors of every other team saying, "Can we talk to you?"
Every other team, like,
and you know the first rule of firing a coach is you better have one in the chamber. What's your plan?
I mean, the day that JB was fired, we had a story. The leading candidates were James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
And how did this turn out? James Borrego and Kenny Atkinson.
Yeah.
And Kenny got the job.
Pretty damn
There
good.
was a list. And other names are on the list, and it's an opportunity for teams to talk to coaches that they don't have the opportunity to talk to. But every team goes into a firing situation with a list of candidates that they're thinking of, except and this is not Leon Rose. Like, I don't know Leon well, but I know him well enough to know this is not something Leon Rose would do.
Right.
This is all the own. But so the deeper conversation here is the way that these franchises are going. They have become multi-billion-dollar companies. And I talked to one guy who said, like, valuations on these are now multiple billions of dollars. If you really look at it, the GMs and the coaches are underpaid. If you take it to the business world of how
go look at what a CEO of a Fortune 500 company makes.
Yes, and
100%.
And owners. One guy I was talking to said an owner never wants to be seen as I care less than the fans. That the fans care more than I do. And owners don't really have a lot of recourse. They don't really have a lot of moves to make other than fire the guy.
Yeah.
How can we show that we care? Well, just fire the guy.
Yeah,
and
well,
go get another one. And
instead, you showed us you're an idiot.
I mean, what's happening in New York is it's laughable that they keep going. Like, I mean, call Steve Kerr next. Call the Warriors and see if you can talk to Steve Kerr. Like,
Typical New York mentality, right?
Yeah,
called me,
Jason,
I turned him
I
down.
was laughing yesterday when I was reading some of these articles because I'm picturing being in that office and when I'm Houston and Dallas and you call. Like, no,
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
like get off
exactly.
my line. You want my coach?
Yeah.
Like what?
Like,
huh?
you get divorced and you call another husband and go,
Yeah,
hey, can I have your wife?
Like, man, stop playing with me, man.
And, you know, I do feel for and I rarely feel for New York sports fans, but I do feel for Knicks fans because while the other teams in the city have had success, not the Rangers, but
It's a
but
Knicks
certainly
city.
the Yankees and the Giants.
It's a Knicks city.
It is. If the Knicks,
See, I thought it was more Yankees. Than
well, if the
than-
Knicks,
it's a
when the
Knicks-
Knicks are good,
Yes.
there is something going on in that city that doesn't go on with the Giants and the
Exactly.
Yankees, and here's why.
Yes.
I think it's because, first of all, they're in the heart, but go to the playgrounds in New York City. Go to Rucker Park. It is woven into the fabric of that entire city.
It's a basketball city first.
Absolutely.
I'll die on that hill. It's a great sports city for all three.
Yeah.
But when the Knicks the Nets have zero impact.
Oh,
the
none.
Nets are good.
Yeah.
There's- It's barely a ripple in the pond. When the
Nobody
Knicks
goes
are
to
good,
Brooklyn.
the city is absurd. Batshit crazy.
Well, they lose
is
their
right.
minds, too. Like, they all are saying, like, after their first round win, championship.
Yep.
Championship.
I did
We're going to
one,
win it.
One other thing on this, I did see online, and I wish I remember where I saw it. Mike sees everything, so he might have seen this.
It's an issue.
The thing
I
with
bet.
the thing with Dolan that I never connected that someone else put together was Dolan had been sort of away from the Knicks because
I have a great idea on this, Jason.
He was-
If Knicks fans want to solve the Knicks, they need to become the biggest James Dolan band fans ever. Sell out every show he goes to. So he gets this inflated ego that he should just keep going on tour.
Well, no, it
and
wasn't
performing
that.
so he stays away from the actual
it
Knicks.
was that he was building the Sphere in Vegas, so he was away because he was building the Sphere.
That's his?
I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that either.
So now
Yeah, the Sphere's his.
now the Sphere is up and running.
Wow.
So now he's back. So the years that
Well,
he
aren't
was
they building other spheres?
No, the Sphere's losing money.
Oh, well,
Like
I can.
hemorrhaging
He
money.
jumped
I
off the
can-
plane.
I
and
can
was like,
believe
hey,
it,
fire his
man.
ass.
Well, I heard
that
it's
can't
like-
be cheap to run.
I heard it's the most incredible venue in the world, but operational cost is so exuberant.
Which is probably why it's never been done before. Monica Robbins, one of our reporters upstairs, went to the U2 show when they first opened there.
Yeah.
And she said, Jay, I can't even begin to explain to you what it is.
Yeah.
Other than by saying this. It is the most immersive entertainment experience that you will
Ever.
ever have.
I've heard the same thing from people. We'll talk about more of that coaching stuff on Monday, Jason. That's a fascinating topic, and we can spend some more time on it. But I definitely want
That's
to
all
get
I have to say. We
this
don't need
next
to talk.
Guardians topic in before we get Spencer
Can I have
German
your
on and talk
wife?
a little more Browns. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, guys. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, kind of like the Sphere. And this year's finals are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it easy and fast to get your best seats available. Even for the biggest playoff games, prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. It's not just for the NBA, it's for concerts and NFL tickets too. And with Game Time's guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic and will arrive on time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Since the Guardians recalled David Fry from his injury, they have a bit of a logjam at first base and designated hitter. Manzardo, Santana, Fry. One of those guys has been sitting in each of the last 6 or 7 games they have played. And lately it's been Manzardo. And Jason, I want to start with you on this one because you mentioned it yesterday. In your mind, there is no excuse for Manzardo not to be an everyday player. So if you were Stephen Vogt, how would you handle this logjam at first base and DH?
Probably not much better than he's been doing it because I think Kyle Manzardo has to be in the lineup every day. I would play him
I
at
agree with that.
I'd play him at first base every day, but Santana's a better fielder. Ultimately, this sounds ludicrous. Ultimately, I would trade Carlos Santana because you can get an asset for him. He's hitting well. He's playing very well right now. But that's one way to loosen the logjam. You play Kyle Manzardo at first every day and David Fry's the DH. But they are so platoon obsessed right now.
It's driving me nuts, Jay.
Yeah, that I don't know that they want David Fry in the lineup against righties. But, if you can create – this is a franchise that really excels at creating assets. So if you trade Josh Naylor and you get Ciccone for him, you just created an asset because then you signed Santana. Now if you flip Santana and you get another asset for him, it loosens a little bit of that logjam, and you've just now added another asset, which they are really good at collecting. So I know that may sound insane, but with the trade deadline coming up, teams like the Mariners and Red Sox are desperate for first baseman. I would look at trading them.
It doesn't sound insane at all. That's exactly what I would do. Jay, I'm to the point now where I'm like up to here with frustration over this platoon nonsense. Mm-hmm. I remember when we were at spring training last year, I can't remember who it was that told me, someone that was with the Guardians that said, a lot of guys, platoon, I think someone told me that, you may have heard this too, Stephen Vogt thinks platoon is a bad word.
And yet they lead the league.
Well, then, if you think, I think what he's saying is he doesn't like the stigma that comes along with platooning guys. And I agree. I don't either. You need 8 positional players, everyday guys that you roll out there. You don't mix and match. They're obsessed with the lefty-righty thing, obsessed with it to the point where I can't even enjoy this team because I don't know who's playing day to day because I don't know whether we're facing a lefty or righty.
They're the same as Tampa. Tampa does the same thing.
I know, and
it's baseball in 2020. I remember
it's not enjoyable.
When we had Mike Hargrove on, because I remember Mike saying this in the 90s. Everyday players are everyday players for a reason. The lineup was the same every single day in 95 and
as it should have been.
And like Alvaro Espinoza never played.
Pinch hit maybe once in a while.
But like this is just how the game has changed and when we had Mike on, again, Mike is very old school, and I wanted to ask him, and he's like, no, I still think the same way. Like everyday players are everyday players for a reason. They're your best guys. They need to be in the lineup.
And you know what? I'm older. Yeah. Maybe it's driven into me.
This is the new way of baseball.
This is what analytics can't measure, Jason, and this is what drives me nuts. Human emotion.
Yeah.
When you sit a guy 3 times a week because of the pitcher that's on the mound, you're telling him you're not good enough. That's what you're telling him. And you get it. Here's what I think the better approach is: do what Josh Naylor did. You tell these guys, you better get better against opposite pitchers or against like pitchers, or you're not going to be here.
What's nuts about it is Naylor's numbers against lefties were horrendous. And Bull and I got into it a couple times because Adam kept saying he can't hit lefties. I'm like, Adam, he hasn't had enough at bats.
Right.
You have to give him more at bats and let him prove that.
He worked on it.
And he worked on it, and he got pretty good. Manzardo can hit lefties.
I know.
So Naylor couldn't, and they played him every day. Manzardo can, and they won't. So it is. I do wish. Of all the guys that need to be in the lineup every day, Kyle Manzardo to me is at the top of the list.
It's what you said about the Browns earlier. Yeah, Nick Chubb is a piece of our heart, but how the carries that he takes away from Judkins, like how does that stunt the young man's growth?
Right.
Same thing with Manzardo. Manzardo is a future star in this league. Why are you benching him half of the time?
And baseball, more than any sport, I believe, is a game of rhythm. It's rhythm at the plate. All pitching is trying to disrupt the batter's timing and rhythm.
No question.
And the rhythm of the season, there's games every day. You have routines, you have processes. And when you're taking one of your brightest future players and you sit them for 2 or 3 days in a row, you're disrupting that rhythm and that timing. So not only, like you said, the psychological aspect, it's just the routine of the day. And you need to see at-bats, and you need to.
It's not just first base. At right field, I'm losing my mind with right field.
It doesn't matter who they put out there.
Here's what I don't get. You had Will Brennan, who drove you nuts.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Really nice guy, friend of the show.
I love him.
I'm tired of seeing Will Brennan and John Kenzie Noel and Logan Allen. I know he pitched well the other day. I'm done with Logan Allen.
I'm not. I'm not done with Logan Allen yet. But here's what I'll say about Will Brennan. To upgrade from Will Brennan, You've got Nolan Jones and Jhonkensy Noel. And Tyvis sent a home run, a text to the group yesterday. Jhonkensy going deep in Columbus. I don't care.
He hit two.
You know, Rocchio's tearing it up in Columbus. I don't care. You know why? Because they're doing it against pitchers that won't be major leaguers. I'm telling you, I know this sounds like it's an arrogant statement. And I'm not diminishing these guys in AAA. They're professional baseball players. They're great. But as you look across the sports landscape and you look at the difference between G League basketball players and NBA players, there's a huge difference.
Yes.
If you look at the difference between college and the NFL, now it's not amateur anymore because they're getting paid. But to me, the biggest difference in levels and at positions is pitching major league to AAA. There's a lot of pitchers in AAA that will never sniff Major League Baseball. Somebody told me once 90% of us are here, so the 10% that have a chance to make the major leagues have someone to beat up on every day. And that's not wrong.
That's not wrong. That's
so
funny.
Jhonkenssy's going to run into a bunch down there. And you know, the other one is Brian Rocchio. Oh, he's tearing it up. We got to bring him up. No, we don't. We've seen it.
Well, I'm fine for bringing him back up because Arias isn't killing it either. But I agree. Like I said yesterday, Rocchio's 24. He should be doing pretty well in AAA.
Yes.
Like, if you can't handle AAA at 24.
But you know what some guys are? I call them 4As.
Oh, for sure.
Brian Rocchio might be a 4A. That destroys AAA ball.
Estevan Florial last year was the...
Yes.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of guys.
4A
You
guy.
could make a league of 4A guys.
Yeah.
You really could. Jhonkensy Noel. With Arias the other day, did you see he in his first 3 at-bats, it was the day that Santana hit the home run, Wednesday against the Reds. In his first 3, I've never seen this before. In his first 3 at-bats, the first 8 pitches, he swung and missed. He was 0 for 8 on swings and misses. Now, I said, oh my God.
I was at Browns camp. I didn't see
He's
that.
about to strike out for the 3rd time, which would be an immaculate inning equivalent to. He swung on a ball, and his swings looked like he didn't want to be there. He was like this, chasing balls that were outside. On the last pitch, on the 0-2 pitch, he fouled one off, and then there was a ball or two, and then he swung and missed at strike 3. So in his first 3 at-bats, he had 3 strikeouts. In his 4th at-bat, he went down 0-2, ended up, I think, grounding out. But I'm just like, this guy's not present today. Everything. He made an error in the first inning. Everything about his game that day told me he really wanted to be somewhere else. I don't get it with these guys. I don't get it.
Well, we'll talk plenty more Guardians here on our WKYC show coming up in 28 minutes. You can watch it on the WKYC Plus app if you're not in the Cleveland area. But we have our guest ready, so we're going to head out to the hotline in 1 second after a quick word from FanDuel. The NBA Finals are in full swing, every night delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's an in-game winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel making it easy to stay in the game, both before tip-off and live. Game 4 tonight. They have player props, performance trends, same-game parlays available. If you're new to FanDuel, right now is the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets if you have a winning ticket. Please send it in to us. We want to feature it here on the show to show off some big-time FanDuel winners in the coming days. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And with that, we welcome in Locked On Browns host Spencer German. He also works for 92.3 The Fan, co-hosts a Saturday show with Earl the Pearl to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Spencer was in Berea the last couple of days for minicamp. How you doing today, Spence?
Can't hear him.
We have audio from Spencer on the internal side, but I can't actually hear Spencer.
Yeah, we're not either. It's not coming through the ISP
We see
system.
his audio levels moving.
That's my co-host every Saturday.
Spencer,
John Carroll guy.
refresh the link and come back
That's
in.
my guy, man. We
right.
do.
We'll
we do-
stall till Spencer's ready.
We do a good show. We have fun and we laugh about it because if you've been in calling in on radio shows, and so calling in guests is a big deal. You know, if you get some big names outside of the Morning Boys, Ken and Lima, we're the only guys that can get this guy to come on our show.
Oh, nice.
So that's a flex at 92.3 The Fan.
Yeah, it is a flex.
I come in, they be like, who on your guest list? Who, me? I got Jason Lloyd. I got Mary Kay. They be like, you? Yeah, me. So do. Sure do.
That's gravitas. You bring
All right,
Jason Lloyd onto a
we're
program.
gonna see if this quick refresh works.
Boom!
Big doings.
All right, take 2 with Spencer. Spencer, give us a mic check.
You guys got me?
We got
There
you
we
now.
go.
Beautiful.
What's up,
Sometimes
bro?
You just gotta refresh the computer.
Not much, guys. How you guys doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Hey, let's talk about the quarterbacks. Are you
let's cut to
sick
the
of that
chase, right?
yet?
No, I mean, listen, it's all in good fun. When you have a situation like this where it's 4 quarterbacks and they're framing it as an open competition, I don't know that it's truly going to be that when we get to training camp. I think they'll have their minds made up about certain things, but yeah, like it's all in good fun. It makes it an easy conversation. I do think though, like there's other elements of this team that have been overshadowed by the quarterback competition, which I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about today as well.
Well, we're going to drill down on that, but first I gotta circle back. Is that skepticism or sarcasm when you say that they're going to have an open competition?
I just think based off of what we've seen so far and through how the reps were handled at mandatory minicamp, I know Kevin Stefanski said, like, don't read too much into it. And there is some truth to that because this time of year, as you guys know, it's less about the results and more about, like, are they looking at the right places? Are they translating the playbook and the things they're doing in these meetings to the field? So I think everyone can wrap their heads around that. But I still think by the time we get to camp, like, we've talked so much, I know you guys have as well, about the idea that they really like Kenny Pickett. And so I think, like, they're going to open up camp with, like, Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco being the guys that are getting most of the reps with the ones. Now, maybe Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel can change their minds with how they play in the preseason and if they do really good things in some of the joint practices that they like. But I think they're going to open up camp with a sort of an understanding of, like, where this thing sits. And by the end of it, I think it'll largely end up being one of those 2 guys that I mentioned taking the reins going into week 1.
Well, you mentioned 3 names. You did not mention Joe Flacco. What does that mean?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Flacco and Pickett were the 2 guys, obviously, who are the front runners. So
okay.
I think both of them. I think they have an understanding of, like, who those guys are, and they're like 1A and 1B, and then it's Sanders and it's Gabriel who are sort of following up the rear in terms of they gotta really work. They got work to do to get to the top of this depth chart, essentially.
Bro, good morning. How are you?
Good, Earl. What's up with you, man?
Man, I can't complain. This is funny, right?
Weird for you, right?
It is very weird. Yo, so me and you done had a bunch of conversations, and I have watched the voluntary OTAs. Then now you're watching mandatory minicamp, and you see everybody outside of Shedeur Sanders getting reps with the first team. And the optics of that, it will raise a lot of questions. At first, I was just kind of playing it cool. Okay, well, maybe this is part of the process. And now we done wrapped up pretty much the entire offseason program, and he was the only quarterback that didn't take any reps with the first team. Why do you think that was?
I just think right now they view him as somebody who has to continue to, like, I think he has things he's working on, and I think they view him as the guy who is the 4th man on this depth chart. I know that people don't like reading into where they took these guys, and I know every time I bring up that Shedeur Sanders was a 5th round pick, I get ridiculed in the YouTube comments of Locked On Browns because people are mad that keeps being part of the conversation. But the fact of the matter is, like, he is a 5th round pick. He was the 2nd quarterback taken by this team. And based off of Kevin Stefanski and what he said about Dillon Gabriel the day after he was drafted, based on what we know about this team's evaluation of him and the pre-draft process and the sort of secret meeting they had with him before the Colorado Pro Day, they really like Dillon Gabriel. So I think it's just a byproduct of they believed that Dillon Gabriel offers something that they like. They believe that the intangibles he has is something that they can use or that's something they can lean on for him to be a good quarterback at some point for this team. And so they wanted to see him in those settings. I also think they think he's maybe more ready for that. He is the more experienced of the 2, and he has a lot more college football under his belt. So I understand why they did it that way. I was a little bummed we didn't get to see Shedeur take any reps with the 1s and 11-on-11s. I thought maybe yesterday would be the day to do it. But Thursday ended up being more about getting Joe Flacco a look and actually giving him a chance to sort of throw with these guys before they broke for summer. And I felt like yesterday was kind of more of I think they sort of showcased or showed their hand maybe more yesterday in terms of how they feel about these guys, where Flacco was first up, Pickett was next up, then Gabriel, then Shedeur. And that is how I sort of leave camp feeling like they at least view the depth chart of this team.
All right, so I got a follow-up to that before Jason go. So you said they had private meetings. They really like Dillon Gabriel a lot. Me personally, Spencer, I find it hard to believe that you've done it. We've done it on this show. Everybody has done breakdowns leading into the draft that of all the quarterbacks that was out there, that's not Shedeur Sanders, that you like Dillon Gabriel more than you did Jackson Dart, more than you did a Tyler Shuck. Me personally, I find that hard to believe. But let's say that they did that, right? And you and every other trusted reporter that we've talked to that have seen these quarterbacks play really have assessed that Shedeur Sanders looks better than Dillon Gabriel. It sounds like to me that the Cleveland Browns could be being a little stubborn because they did draft Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round. And I bring that up because we talked about this on the Ultimate 216 show. Dillon Gabriel didn't have an issue with balls being batted down at the line of scrimmage in college, but yet that has shown to be a problem through the voluntary portion and the mandatory portion of camp. So because they drafted him there, do you think that he's going to get more of an opportunity even though the eye test is showing you something totally different?
I laugh, Earl, when you say stubborn because I'm just kind of thinking, like, this organization, stubborn? No, never. I mean, the organization that last year looked everybody in the eye and said, no, Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win. I watched 7 games of him looking like one of the worst quarterbacks of all time. But no, I think there probably is a little bit of stubbornness involved with this where they feel convinced that Dillon Gabriel can be a good quarterback in this league on some level, which is why they took him with the top 100 pick. Maybe they do view him as like a long-term backup, which, I still would argue taking a long-term backup in the 3rd round with the top 100 pick was questionable. I think everyone felt that way after the pick was made. And so, yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of that involved, and I think that will sort of show itself at training camp too, because I'm going to assume that he's going to be first up in this conversation and first up with reps when it comes to actually working in with the ones like he was this past week and showcasing what he brings to the table. So I think there are certainly shortcomings for him. I will say, like, in context, Shedeur looked good, which is what we would want and would hope for, but he also was doing it against the 3s, the 4s, and at times the 2s. And so I think the positive for him is all the reps that he got, no matter which group he was with, he was the most consistent of the quarterbacks in terms of he consistently was making the throws, looked really good doing it. I also think he had the most like head-turning throws of the entire minicamp, where every day it seemed like he was making another one that made you kind of go, oh, okay. I think Gabriel, his biggest struggles came when he was with the 1s, and obviously we haven't seen Shedeur go with that group yet. So there's still sort of some mystery there as to what that kind of looks like. But based on what the organization has sort of signaled, I think they're going to slow play it with Shedeur and probably Dillon. But I think Dillon's going to get more of those reps because they clearly feel strongly enough that they wanted to take him as early as they did.
Spence, we opened the show talking about Nick Chubb going to Houston. Just wondering your thoughts on Jay makes the argument they should have brought, and Earl makes the argument they should have brought him back and give him one more chance here in Cleveland. How did you see that playing out, and what did you think about his goodbye?
Yeah, I thought early in the offseason, bringing him back made way too it just made too much sense, right? Like, organization coming off a 3-14 year, the Deshaun Watson, the dark cloud that is the Deshaun Watson situation looming over this whole organization, and it's the easiest PR move in the world, right, Jason? To just bring back a fan favorite like that, and somebody that fans can rally around and get excited about, and maybe see his comeback story continue. So I felt like it was going to happen early in the offseason. Like, you talk about stubbornness. Like, I was so stubborn that I thought it was going to happen that I sort of ignored the signs early on. But then I think when we got to the draft and you saw them take the 2 running backs, and then like they kind of doubled down with the restructure of the Jerome Ford contract, I thought that sort of painted the picture of, yeah, he's not coming back. And so we've had time to sort of come to grips with this. I know that doesn't make it necessarily easier for some Browns fans to swallow. I thought his goodbye was truly heartfelt. I think Nick has always been pretty candid when it comes to his feelings about he keeps a lot close to the vest, as you know, but I thought he's always been very candid about like his feelings for Cleveland, his love for this fan base and the city and all that. And it stinks that it ended this way. A couple years ago, I think most people envisioned Nick Chubb being a Brown for life. but the knee injury sort of derailed all that. So I guess what I would say is the one sort of saving grace or silver lining here is Quinshon Judkins looked really, really good this week. And I know it was just helmets and shorts and jerseys, but I think that even though Nick Chubb's not going to be there, and I know there will always be people box score watching to see what he brings to the table and if he's able to bounce back and be the Nick Chubb of old. But if Quinshon comes out and puts up big numbers, or if he's like at least, has a 1,000-yard season sort of sharing time with Dylan Sampson, I think people will not forget Nick Chubb, but they'll sort of be able to reconcile from the fact that he's not part of this organization anymore, and I think everyone will be okay.
Yeah, I think what you said makes perfect sense. It sounds a lot like how Jason approaches it. He had time to kind of come to grips with it. It did look like all the signs were there, especially after the draft. I'm just wondering, in a vacuum, and you can like or hate this draft class. We always say time will tell. But when I hear it said out loud, it always strikes me. The Cleveland Browns took 2 running backs and 2 quarterbacks in the draft. Did you see
their offense last year?
Oh, I saw it. I saw
3.
it. But guess what? If you're really lucky, only 3 of them can be on the field at the same time, and more likely it's going to be 2 if you're really lucky. It's just you're blinded.
Have you seen this team draft?
Yeah, I saw it this year too.
You need all the darts.
Right in line.
You need all the darts you can find.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? Ignore the interior, and I know their number 1 pick was an interior defensive lineman. That's great. But ignore your offensive line at your own peril. See Philadelphia Eagles and compare their line to ours. What's winning in the NFL right now? Well, the Eagles are so good at what they do, the league's trying to change the rules to stop them. And our offensive line is getting older and more banged up, and there are question marks all over the damn thing. And we're drafting 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs.
Speaking of question marks, we all know outside of Jerry Jeudy, there's a huge question mark at wide receiver. I've been told that Jamari Thrash has been impressive with the opportunities given to him. I know last year during this particular time, him being a late 5th-round pick last year, he was struggling to hold on to the ball during rookie camps and mandatory mini camps last year. I've heard that he's pretty much damn near caught everything that has came his way. We know Cedric Tillman has missed some time. Michael Woods has missed some time. Deontay Johnson just showed up. What has Jamari Thrash done in your eyes to stand out and earn more opportunities in this wide receiving room?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of out of necessity that he's found a role for himself with that first team in the slot. They don't really have that position addressed right now, and so he's kind of that first man up getting looks there. I do think, to your point, Earl, there was a few drops that I saw from him early on in the offseason program, but I do think he's made a concerted effort to work on his ability to catch the ball, because last year that was an issue for him. He had a really nice catch in the end zone. Dylan Gabriel hit him on like a slot fade, and he went up with like both hands and pulled it in with a corner sort of in his face. That was really nice. So I think there's definitely been some improvement there. But to your point though, like this wide receiver room does not inspire much confidence. Like it's Jerry Jeudy and sort of like the Island of Misfit Toys from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Like Cedric Tillman is, I think Cedric Tillman has a lot of promise. He's shown some things, but can he do it consistently? That's the big thing for him. Deontay Johnson, is he even going to make this roster? Is he going to stay sort of on that straight and narrow and really disprove the narratives about him like he talked about this week? We'll see. But even he's not a slot guy. So I still think, and I asked Andrew Berry after the draft, I think it was like the last question he got was me sort of saying, hey, is wide receiver still, to go back to your point, Jay, like they ignored wide receiver, they ignored offensive line. And I was curious, like, is wide receiver, is that a room that's still a work in progress? And he gave me the classic GM answer of, our entire roster is still a work in progress back then. But I think after seeing this group on the field and some of the guys that are just rotating between the two fields and going back and forth, and a lot of undrafted rookies and, late round picks from previous years, I think there still is a move to be made there. I'd be surprised if this room right now, it looks exactly the same when we get to the end of August and they're cutting this roster down going into week 1.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows they didn't have enough. They didn't have success drafting wide receivers in the 3rd round. I'm not sure why we think their undrafted wide receivers are going to stick. And Deontay Johnson is the wild card to me. We did a story yesterday on Channel 3 about Deontay Johnson, and when you read it out loud, it sounds like, what the hell are we doing here? He was on 4 teams in the span of 9 months last year. You know, he started with Pittsburgh, traded to Carolina. He's got 4 different rosters. And I think he's a wild card. I think the talent's there, but are we going to be able to get anything out of him? And that's, to me, that's the big question.
It's a really good question, Jay. And what I found interesting was, you know, he says in his press conference this week that he thinks he's misunderstood or like his fallout last year and what went on was kind of misconstrued and his character's been knocked because of it. But I just think there's nothing worse, and this is across all sports, I think, than being labeled like a quitter or somebody who doesn't try hard. And like those are all things that he can control. And he said it was only 1 year. He said it was last year, and that was where he didn't enter a game for the Ravens. And so I would have liked a little more clarity on like why that happened. He's saying it's a misunderstanding, okay. But even going back to his last year in Pittsburgh, like he was getting criticized for not making blocks on certain plays, and there was one play in particular, I believe it was against the Browns, where he like didn't dive on a loose ball that was a fumble, and he got ripped for that. So like shaking that narrative about yourself is a hard thing to do. He says he's out to do that exact thing and prove people wrong, but I just think, you know, there's a lot that goes into being labeled that, and it starts with your actions. So I was kind of perplexed by him just being like, it's all a misunderstanding. Like, you put yourself in the situation by refusing to enter a game. Like, as soon as that happens and you're labeled a quitter, like that's on you at that point. So we'll see what it all looks like, but there's a lot of questions there for sure.
Spencer, the guy I most wish could have a conversation with Deontay is Chris Carter, because I love the fact that you mentioned it's really hard to overcome that bad first impression. And Chris Carter came into the league with all-world talent at Ohio State. He ended up being cut by the Eagles, and Buddy Ryan famously said all he does is catch touchdowns. And on the surface, that sounds like, okay, well, give me one of those guys. But Chris, in having the chance to sort of do the autopsy of the first half of his career, or first couple of years, actually examined himself, and he had some other off-the-field demons that he addressed and worked on, and we all know what happened after that. A Hall of Fame career ensued. I'm not saying Deontay Johnson has Hall of Fame talent, but I think he has talent. And hopefully the Browns had the conversation with him, the sort of come-to-Jesus conversation, that said, look, pal, no, your phone wasn't ringing. We're your last chance here. We're your life raft. Don't sink. Make this thing work. And I wish Chris Carter or someone like that could get to him, because I think there's something there, and the Browns are going to need it if they're going to have any chance to win games this year.
And yet he didn't go to OTAs.
I know. It's just like,
I don't want to have the whole
you're not getting
OTA
off to a great
again.
start here.
I don't want to have the whole OTA debate again, but if
there's certain guys that have to go.
If you're hanging on to your career by a thread,
you're there,
and you don't go.
Yeah, that's on you.
Weird.
Jason, I'm with you. I was surprised by that. He said he clarified why with the coaching staff and all that. So okay, and yes, it's voluntary. But when people were outraged that Myles Garrett wasn't there, I was like, okay, whatever. But he was the one that I was more concerned about. And I know, Earl, you can vouch for this because we've talked about it. But yeah, that was perplexing. And you're right, Jason, Jay. Like he I don't know, like he had no calls. Nobody was calling. Like this is your last chance to, you know, save your career. So you better kind of figure it out and get on the right path.
And there are a million cautionary tales.
One last thing, because I know
at that
Spencer,
position.
I know you got to go. It's Father's Day weekend. We just lost Nick Chubb. You watched his whole career here. What team, in your opinion, was Nick Chubb the daddy of the most?
Oh, man. This is a great question.
We're going to do this tomorrow.
Look, he averaged 5.1 per carry, all of them.
Yeah, so
it didn't really matter.
Would you look at it and say Nick Chubb was their daddy?
I feel like I remember a lot of highlights against the Bengals, so maybe the Bengals. I mean, there's so many good ones, though. I mean, you could even just say the Raiders, just based off that game he had against them where he only carried the ball 3 times. Had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, he didn't even have to do anything else at that point. Like he already owned them after that. So
that's a fact.
Be great, bro.
Spencer, great job, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Always happy to do it anytime, and enjoy and have a good weekend.
You too.
Thanks,
you too.
buddy.
Good insight. Really good insight. I like him a lot. You got a good co-host there, man.
That's my guy. We have
That
fun
is-
on Saturday mornings.
I bet.
Spencer German of the Locked On Browns podcast. You want more stuff from Spencer, you can find him on the Locked On Browns podcast and with Earl on the radio Saturday mornings. We got one super chat to get to, guys. After a quick word from Buckeye State Credit Union. If you haven't heard of them yet, meet your favorite financial partner. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local institution offering everything From checking accounts to home equity lines of credit and auto loans with some of the lowest rates in Northeast Ohio. Their Cleveland branch is in Shaker Heights, which is one of 5 locations across the state, making it easy to find one near you. Can't get to a branch? No problem. They make banking simple with digital banking. What sets them apart? Well, they make banking personal and convenient. Their focus is you. Their core values: connect, simplify, and adapt, guide everything they do, bringing people together, cutting through the clutter, and they're innovative. To learn more, visit buckeyescu.org. Buckeye State Credit Union, your money simplified. A little teaser of what's to come on the WKYC show coming up in just a few minutes. We're going to talk about which Guardians deserve to be All-Stars, how a West Coast road trip could reinvigorate this offense, a potential new Guardians logo redesign that I'm very curious if the older heads on this show are fans of or not. And last but not least, which version of Dustin Hopkins will the Browns get in 2025 after a disappointing 2024?
Kicker roulette.
But our one super chat of the day comes from DBDog21, who says, could it be that the Browns really know what Shedeur has, but they want to see what Dylan can actually do, because maybe they think if Shedeur gets in, he ain't coming out?
No, I don't think
No,
so. That's not
it.
Yeah, that's not it. When I tell you, when Spencer was talking, the one thing that came to mind to me was he had mentioned that Gabriel has had work against the ones, and Shedeur has not, and Gabriel has looked worse against the ones than he did against the twos, which is expected. I wonder if they think that that's going to happen with Shedeur, and they don't want to ding his confidence, and they don't want that out there. So they're just acclimating him slowly before they put him out there against the Dogs. Any thought that could be what they're doing?
I would say this before you go about Shedeur. I think Shedeur has been through a lot, and I think he's stronger mentally and spiritually than have a few bad practices ding his overall confidence.
But I think where he is. He's coming in off the lowest possible.
But I'll say this as well, because we have said a lot about Shedeur that all he needs to do is just come in and take advantage of the opportunities given to him.
Yeah.
And then we like to always, kind of like point out the fact, well, he's going against this unit, that unit.
Sure.
Okay, well, that's true. But he's still taking advantage of the opportunities that's given to him. Because Lord forbid the conversations that will be had if he looked like trash.
Which is why I bring that up.
Units.
Maybe they don't want that conversation being had. Jay, am I nuts?
I think they have things that they want him to work on, and that's the plan that they have in place. He's very clearly fourth. And I said last week, if it was Kyle McCord they took in the 5th round, would we be having this conversation?
No, he'd be a forgotten entity.
All right, we'll see you on WKYC in 3 minutes. Peace.